and gentlemen, the books is in. The books are in. Yep. They in. They're here. ETM Hotel, Rennie, Shawn. Welcome in peace. My name is Shawn. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to Science with Shawn. If you don't mind, like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. We're actually at it again. Today's show, we're going to deal with I hate to do this, but we're going to deal with some misinformation floating around social media again. We're going to get into mRNA. What is the actual vaccine? There's still some misunderstanding on what the mRNA vaccine is. Well, I had a brother ask me regarding, instead of sending the sister to the video and have her go through it, I'm doing it now differently, and I won't take much time with that. But like the show, share the show. This is going to be a good learning experience. And then, like, you know, as usual, we'll get to the Science with Shawn. But right now I'm streaming on Facebook and I'm streaming on YouTube. Of course, you know, I'm gonna break Facebook off and go on to YouTube eventually after we get done with this. But it's imperative that y'all like the show and share the show, please. This is important. You know, this information can be given out to the people and we actually can deal with that. Yeah, it's more craziness. Not really, but let's just get into it. I see we got a couple people in the building. Just want to say peace to everybody. What up, Brother Chavis? Sister Althea, peace. The number one troll is on Facebook. Peace to you. Number one troll. Let's see here. One second, y'all. Let me make sure that I get the link out. I really want to deal with this this whole myth thing because it's imperative that we take the time out to, you know what I'm saying, make sure that we keep people from spreading misinformation and information that could cause people to, you know what I'm saying? They playing a game. They ain't playing fair, yo. They ain't playing fair. It's a whole issue. Someone pointed out what we should be obvious, but what I missed. Mod RNA, aka modified RNA. They have it in plain sight. Yo, this is crazy. Yeah, so we're just gonna deal with some of the stuff that's people saying, you know what I mean? I hate that it have to be like this. I mean, I wish that we all had, you know, took the due diligence and the time out to study and just get ourselves up to speed on certain things so that we could be, you know, better as individuals and deal with, you know, the things that we're trying to deal with. So I don't know who watching right now, or what's going on with that, but what up, Rostix? Peace, bro. Black African Power. Yeah. Come on, y'all. Share the show. I know it's early. I know people gotta I know y'all got stuff going on, man. But yeah, like the show, share the show. I know some of y'all just now waking up. I don't want to take too much longer with that. I want to make sure that everybody's in the building. Because you don't really, the reason that I'm doing it like this is because I don't want people uh, having to repeat themselves or saying, hey, look at this video. Um, you know what I mean? They're going to be like, you giving me a YouTube video to watch, even though the sources are in the description, all the links is in the description. They're going to look at it as if they're going to discredit it and say it, it's just like all the other videos. It's not substantial. However, any video that I do, any video that the team does, any video that the family does, we all provide sourced information, quality information, so that you can be abreast of what's going on. So it's not like we going live and we just talking crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's not like we live, we just talking crazy. That is further from the truth. We literally are pushing scientific literacy, and we're literally doing this thing in real time, yo. We're not a YouTube group. You know what I mean? We're in the communities, we're doing things in the communities. We're providing scholarship programs for people thousands of miles away from us in Senegambia, in the Gambia. Let me be specific, the Gambia, right? So we're not that group that you're going to say, yo, this is a Facebook thing, or this is this, that, and the third. No, we're actually dealing with real stuff, yo. Real stuff. Like, we are really, really on it. You know what I mean? And it's gonna be quality information every time. So I do see we got some people in the building, yo. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna get started right now. I do want, just share the show for me, like the show, spread the word. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be real educational, and I'm not gonna take up too much time. So let's get straight to it. Brother on Facebook post this, right? Showing this. He's talking about suburban hospitals pause COVID vaccines after 4 workers experienced some adverse reactions. But that's not why they paused it. They had already vaccinated over 3,000 people in the building, and there's no real issues here. Some people experiencing mild symptoms, and it is the media's job to report what they report. So they're going to report whatever they want to report across the board, regardless of uh, the influence it may have on people or the clickbait it may create. That's just a fact. All right. So we have to do our due diligence to click on it, read the article in its entirety, and then come back and build on it. Or if we got questions or anything like that, we can iron out any, and I mean any, issues. All right. So you go down the comment, you see I commented, but then you see this brother right here, this S. Johnson. Now, this brother's been trolling for a long time. He's been trolling actually for about 4 years now. That's how long Trump been in office. So he's been trolling now for about 4 years, right? He wanted to be an Aboriginal. He wanted to be all kind of stuff. As you can see, he's got a video right here. It says smiley face busted, smiley face, fake vaccination. So let's see what he's saying, yo. All right. Hold up. Let me blow it up for the people. All right. Everybody should be able to see it now. Nah, yeah, I can't see because I ain't sharing my screen, yo. My bad. Let me go back.
I was just about to say I ain't want to cut your business.
Yeah, nah. You good. All right. So again, let me start over. So there's a video right here. I mean, it's a post right here, yo, in the Facebook group. All right. Suburban hospitals, COVID vaccines for experienced adverse reactions. That's typical. I answered the question. I said everything that I just said. This issue is allergic reaction. Hell, they vaccinated 3,000, only had 4 people had minor issues. The hospital also noted that the 4 team members represent fewer than 0.1% of the approximate 3,000 who had so far received the vaccinations across the Advocate Aurora Health. All right. So out of 3,000, 4 people had some little minor adverse effects. All right, so here go the dude again. His name is S. Johnson, the troll, right? He posts this video under there. Of course, he tagged my name. I hate when people tag my name, because when you tag my name, you asking me to beat you up. So this video is a minute, and you're probably gonna see it all over social media. So let's deal with it.
All right, so let's start with this clown show. Now watch it carefully. Look at it. There's nothing in the needle. It's empty. Empty. He's not pushing anything. Are you trying to pull the shit up? Okay, next up. Now check this one out. This is the fake needle altogether. Watch it. Nothing goes in the arm. Magic. Look at that shit. It's fucking magic. And now watch it again. Look at it. Oh, voila. Abracadabra. Needle skeeted on her arm. Yeah, it's crazy. Now look at this, man. Needle in, right? Where the fuck is the needle at? Huh? See, they playing the fuck out of you. They doing all this shit just to build your confidence, snatch your trust, and poison the shit out of you. Ain't no fucking needle on there.
They're retractable. I mean that the needle goes into the syringe. There's a tube with a spring in it, so that makes the needle pop right back up. You can put liquid into the syringe, and it'll go up into the handle of the plunger. Doesn't hurt a bit.
They believe that they will have approximately 7,000 covered when all is said and done, perhaps more.
Needle go in,
500 scheduled just
no needle come out.
All right. So you got a brother and a sister that's a part of this video, and then you see the other guy pull up. All right. So you had a sister in another group. She posts this. She said, "Ask them to take the cap off next time, Nancy." What a show. There you go. It's blowed up. You can see it a little bit bigger, right? You see the little orange cap right there, right? All right. Okay. Y'all see that? All right. We cool. That's Nancy. Let's get this out of here. There's the same needle type. There you go. There's the needle type right there. Right? Okay. Get that out of there. Here you go again. Right? Same needle type, same cap thing, all of that. Right? You see all of that. You see the vibe, you see all of that right there, right? Okay, let's get that out of there. Let me go back to the video. And let's see if y'all catch this.
All right, so let's start with this clown show. Now watch it carefully. Look at it. There's nothing in the needle. It's empty. Empty. He's not pushing anything. Are you trying to pull the shit up? There's nothing in the needle. It's empty. Now watch it carefully. Look at it. There's nothing in the.
All right, let's keep going.
Empty. Empty. He's not.
All right, so through hindsight, you like, yeah, they faking the funk. Yeah, they faking the funk. It's easy for us. What we do all the time is they faking the freaking funk all the time, right? So let's do this. Fact check. Fact check. All right. Post falsely claimed cap was on Nancy Pelosi's COVID-19 vaccine. All right. So they pump faking you, right? They pump faking you. So let's deal with it. I'm not going to play the video. I'm going to play the video, but not the sound. And I just want y'all to watch. So I want y'all to watch. You know, this is what was said earlier. Of course, it's saying it down at the bottom, but you just seen two people get the vaccine. So they pump faked on Nancy Pelosi. You know what I'm saying? The other doctor, he really didn't get the shot. I guess this sister didn't get the shot either. You know what I'm saying? Her syringe don't look like everybody else's. So I guess they gave her the fake disease. You know what I mean? They gave her whatever she had to get, yo. Right? And she's still sitting and she's still talking and addressing the media. Unlike the other sister. Oh, there go the one with the little cap thing on it. Yeah, take the cap off. Take the cap off next time. You know, all of that, right? All of that. We doing all of that for what? What are we doing all of that for? Let's see what we're doing all of that for. The claim, the image. All right, here it is, the claim. Image with cap over syringe shows Nancy Pelosi didn't get COVID-19 vaccine. Right? That's what they're saying. Now, Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine began rolling out in limited doses this week, and U.S. government officials have been among the first to receive the vaccinations in an attempt to boost confidence and prove that the shots are safe and effective. Vice President Pence, and top congressional leaders, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, posted photos of their vaccinations on Friday. Following the announcement, some social media users made claim that Pelosi did not actually receive the shot based on an image that purportedly shows an orange cap over the syringe. How do you use a syringe with a cap still on? One user wrote in December 18th Facebook post that includes 3 images of Pelosi vaccination. 2 of the photos appear to close up of the larger image showing an injection, and the post has over 1,400 shares, actually more than that. Now, other users shared the same or similar images. Some with a caption on top of the reads, Pelosi got the COVID vaccine. Can someone explain how effective the vaccine is if you leave the cap on the needle? You aren't fooling no one. Fact check. What's true and what's false about the COVID-19 vaccine? Pelosi was vaccinated. Pelosi announced in a press release that she would be getting coronavirus vaccine after being informed that members of the House and Senate are eligible under government continued guidelines. The House Speaker was given the first dose of the vaccine on December 18th. Today, with confidence and signs and the direction of the Office of Attending Physicians, I received a COVID-19 vaccine, Pelosi tweeted, along with the photos of her receiving the shot. As the vaccine is being distributed, we must all continue wearing masks, right? We must all continue wearing masks, social distancing, my bad. You know, all these pop-ups come up and you're trying to get them up off your screen, so it's going to take you off. As the vaccine is being distributed, we must all continue wearing masks, social distancing, and other science-based steps to save lives and crush the virus. All right? Many photos document the entire process of Pelosi receiving the vaccine and her posing in front of reporters with the COVID-19 vaccine record card. Now, she got a record card showing that she's been vaccinated. The orange cap seen in the images may be a plastic safety covering on the syringe that flips over the needle after use. In the images in the viral post, only the orange piece of the syringe can be seen as the injection is administered. But a photo of Pelosi getting the Pfizer vaccine taken from a different angle, visible of Getty Images by Pool Photography, clearly shows the needle before it goes into her arm. Y'all see that? Y'all see that? Oh, I guess it's going to retract, right? All right. Now, a similar claim regarding London Mayor Sadiq Khan getting the flu shot went viral in October when social media alleged he didn't actually get the injection because the cap was still on the needle. A spokesman of the Mayor of London to full effect, the photo was taken just before he received the injection, which is why the cap is still visible in the image. Now, our rating, false on this claim. Claims that Nancy did not actually get vaccinated against COVID-19 because there's an orange cap over the needle are false. Photos of Speaker Pelosi getting the vaccine clearly showed a needle going into her arm without the cap on it. There's your fact check sources. There go other people, yo, getting into other people, you know, the gallery of people getting the vaccine. People in line waiting. There go Pence. He's got a blue cap. Yep. See, as you can see right here, look, they filling the vial up there. There's that cap. It's a clear cap on that one. There's a blue cap on that one. All of that is for the needle. I guess they giving them the real and nobody else not. Feel me? So I'm going to transition on over here to this. All right, not real news. False stories from this week about COVID-19 vaccines, election results, and all that. So this video, you know, they're going to do, here's a look at misleading claims in the United States rolled out newly authorized Pfizer vaccine. So they kind of deal with that. Now, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. Okay? I'm not going to beat a dead horse. But I brought this up because an Alabama nurse did not die as a result of receiving the COVID-19. This is another claim that a 42-year-old nurse in Alabama died after she received the COVID-19 vaccine on Tuesday. No healthcare workers died after Alabama began administering COVID-19 vaccines to them on Tuesday. But the Post falsely claimed that it does. And it's circulating on Facebook and Twitter, which is a huge issue. This thing being shared up and down. And it clearly says that. And I'm not going to get too much into it, but you can read it. Look, a better image of the ones with the cap on it, how it looks, yo. It looks intimidating. I get it. But this is Sanjay Gupta, CNN, when he got his vaccine. I guess they did the spring on him too, yo. Now, here's another claim. This is the issue that was in the other video. Shows COVID-19 vaccine with a retractable needle. Claim. Video shows healthcare worker faking to giving the COVID-19 vaccine in England with a disappearing needle. Facts. The video does not show a staged shot. As video footage of the COVID-19 vaccine floods news on social media platforms, social media users are misrepresenting those videos to create a false narrative that healthcare workers are not actually being inoculated. The posts are being shared by people who oppose vaccines in order to spread doubt about the vaccine and the pandemic. Social media users are amplifying these false claims by sharing a 9-second BBC clip from Wednesday that shows a healthcare worker administering a vaccine into the arm of a patient. The needle retracts after the vaccine is injected. One Twitter video that falsely suggests that the medical worker is faking the inoculation and being viewed more than 420,000 times. Disappearing needles. They are so desperate. Come on. This goes back to the first video that I showed you. This is why I'm reading this one and not the Alabama worker. All right. All fakes. May I present to you the disappearing needle? Remember, those collapsibles, toy knives, we used to play with as kids. In reality, the videos show a healthcare worker using a safety syringe, which is retractable to prevent needle stick injuries that can spread disease like hepatitis. Safety syringes have no impact on the amount of vaccine someone gets and are no different from receiving the vaccine through a traditional needle, said Dr. Craig Spencer, Director of Global Health Emergency Medicine at New York Presbyterian Columbia University Medical Center. Spencer received the COVID-19 vaccine Wednesday. What you saw in those videos are retractable needles, he said. BBC debunked the claims earlier Thursday. A BBC spokesman told the AP that the footage was genuine and showed a healthcare worker using a safety syringe. Most importantly, people need to be learning about vaccinations from a trust health source like the CDC, not your aunt's Facebook page or viral tweet, Spencer said. Woo! Woo! All right.
Shawn, that was a knockout blow right there.
Woo! Now, this is reiterating what the other video said. So I'm not going to go there and deal with all of that, right? They got Pence again. Like I said, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I understand that some of us have reading comprehension problems or improper research methodology issues. I get that. I totally understand it. But what I'm trying to show y'all on Facebook and on YouTube is that we have to be careful. When these videos are being shared, are you doing your due diligence to fact check, go behind, and verify the claims being made by the claimant? Because if you're not doing that and you're sharing these videos, you are engaging in misrepresenting the truth. It's the white lie. It's the white lie. Now, you had other people claiming that the vaccine contained the virus. It does not. It doesn't. This is people who don't understand what mRNA vaccines, and that's going to lead us to another one. Okay? So, I got the fact check sources in the description of the videos, and I would advise all of you who have seen that video to share that video and share it with the facts. In the description of this video is the fact-checking sources. You have them now. You know about the retractable needle. It's not retracting until after it's been entered and assessed. If you have issues with this stuff, listen, I got a history of nurses in my family. So my cousin, all my cousins, they might even be watching this and not saying nothing. But like all my cousins, they take after my grandmother. My grandmother was working in the field. My uncles, they worked in the field. So my cousins, my cousin Keisha, she just graduated from Vanderbilt. Shout out to Keisha. She got her degree. She graduated. She's in the field. She was on the front line. She even contracted COVID-19 from working in the front line at Vanderbilt Hospital. All right. She in the field. She knows about these needles. My cousin Sharon, she knows about these needles. My cousin's son George, she knows about these needles. You know what I'm saying? My aunt Lindy, she knows about these needles, right? My uncle Michael, my uncle Butch, you know what I'm saying? That's 6 people. I ain't even done naming people in my family that knows about all of this stuff that's going on. Yet misinformation is being spread by people because they're not being intelligent to know that, yo, when I was in the hospital the last time they was trying to do something, they hit you with the retractable. Straight up, and you can see it, yo. Like, don't play games. It needs listen, for the needle to retract, it has to be pressed up against something. So as soon as the vaccine is, as soon as something enters the body, it triggers the thing to retract at that point, because they don't need to stick a needle, a 2 or 3 inch needle, 2 or 3 inches into your body, yo. Malcolm is in the chat. Malcolm's in the chat. Frontline worker, straight out of Memphis 10, doing this stuff all day long, yo. He deal with that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna thank everybody who is on Facebook that has tuned in. I'm going to transition over to YouTube. Please, if you in the chat, it's like 30 people watching. Like the show. I'm strictly going to YouTube. We're gonna continue the course for the day. That debunks another myth. It's 2 myths down. All right, people, back to our regular scheduled program. Peace to everybody in the chat. You know what I'm saying? I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in again. We're going to continue to transition forward. If people don't know what's going on with the whole needle thing, just like I said, the sources are in the description, right? So, we dispelling myths. And it's bad that we got to do this, but it is what it is. So I want to get into what mRNA vaccines are real quick. This one's for a sister, Sutek put me up on. she was needing more information on the mRNA vaccine, and she didn't really fully understand. So I'm gonna try to give you this video right here and see if it can help you out. It's 3 minutes long. I'm gonna play the video, and then I'm gonna give you 2 sources that's also gonna be in the description, and let's see if that can help you. Let's see if that can help you. And like I said, brother Malcolm is in the chat. You know what I'm saying? And if you have any questions, if you're watching, sister, please feel free to ask, and we will address them live. But I do want to go ahead and get to this portion before we get to the meat and potatoes, because at 2:30 we do have brother Kofi. He will be presenting today on Kofi Pieside Research Team, and we want to go on support and make sure that we get him taken care of. But yeah, like the show, share the show. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Come on, man. We need some more likes. Let me give us some sound.
Prepare the immune system.
Hold on. Let me start over so you got the sound.
Vaccines prepare the immune system, getting it ready to fight disease-causing organisms called pathogens. A vaccine is introduced to the body to mimic infection, triggering the body to produce antibodies against the pathogen, but without causing the illness. Conventional vaccines usually contain a weakened or inactivated pathogen, or a piece of a protein produced by the pathogen called an antigen. RNA vaccines are a new generation of vaccines. Instead of the antigen itself, RNA vaccines contain a messenger RNA, mRNA, that encodes for the antigen. Once inside the body's cells, the mRNA is translated into protein, the antigen, by the same process the cells use to make their own proteins. The antigen is then displayed on the cell surface where it is recognized by the immune system. From here, the sequence of events is similar to that of a conventional vaccine. Some RNA vaccines also contain additional mRNA coding for an enzyme, which, after being translated in host cells, can generate multiple copies of the antigen encoding mRNA. This essentially amplifies the production of antigen from a small amount of vaccine, making the vaccine more effective. These are called self-amplifying RNA vaccines. RNA vaccines are easier and safer to produce than conventional vaccines. This is because mRNA molecules can be synthesized in a cell-free system using a DNA template with a sequence of the pathogen. While conventional vaccines usually require a more complicated and risk-prone process of growing large amounts of infectious pathogens in chicken eggs or other mammalian cells. Without the risks of being contaminated by infectious elements or allergens from egg cultures, RNA vaccines are also safer for patients. Because protein synthesis occurs in the cytoplasm, RNA molecules do not need to enter the nucleus, so the possibility of them integrating into the host cell genome is low. RNA strands are usually degraded by cellular enzymes once the protein is made. The relative simplicity of the production process makes it easier to standardize and scale, enabling rapid responses to emerging pandemics. Other advantages include lower production costs and the ease of tweaking RNA sequences to adapt to rapidly mutating pathogens. On the minus side, it can be challenging to deliver mRNA effectively to the cells, since RNA sequences and secondary structures may be recognized and destroyed by the innate immune system as soon as they are administered intravenously. These limitations can be overcome by optimizing codons, using modified nucleosides to avoid recognition, and packaging RNA into protective nanoparticles. Another disadvantage is that most RNA vaccines require uninterrupted refrigeration for transportation and storage, which can be a hurdle for vaccine distribution. Research is ongoing to engineer thermostable vaccines.
Oh, man. All right. So we're going to deal with something that was said in the video at the very end. But I do want to continue to elaborate a little bit further on what mRNA vaccines are. All right, because the sister wanted to know, like, what's in it. You know what I mean? She was steadfast and like, what's in it? What's in it? What's in it? So give me a second, and I'm gonna try to answer your question because it is very important, and this video is specifically for that. And for that reason, I gotta go pull up my other source, but I thought I had it on here too. Oh Lord, I think I skipped it. Yeah, I did. All right, hold on just a second. Let me pull this other source up for y'all, and I'll be right back. T'Challa, you on here, man? Bill, man, real quick on that last video, real quick.
Peace to everybody. Um, I just think it's real important that we understand what we're dealing with when we speak about anything from vaccines to, you know, whatever subject you want to open your mouth about. Many of us that tune into these shows and go on other people's platforms, we all work all different kind of jobs. We all have medical professionals in our family. And, you know, it's crazy how many different conversations you can have in a day's time. Like I can go from building about science, talking to a medical professional in my family about science, get a text message about something that's totally trying to debunk science, like every other viral video, as if that's going to debunk the international science community. And then you can turn around and go back to having a conversation about science. Oh, I look like Shawn about ready, but I just think that that's important. That's really all I have to say. Just really understand what you're talking about, because you can't just speak it on the retractable needles real quick, and the caps and what you see and what you don't see. We know lookership is a problem. Lookership is something that we're fighting something that's microscopic. We're dealing with things that the eye can't see for one. So for you to try to debunk something over what your eye can see versus what's going on a microscopic scale, you could never perceive what's going on. Even our ancestors in Kemet performing brain surgery, yes, they did that. Um, we weren't understanding things fully on a microscopic scale. We knew the microscopic scale was there. We knew something was there, but we're not understanding things completely on that scale. Yet we're performing brain surgery. So I say that to say there are things you're unaware of, even while you're at different phases of practicing medicine or not practicing medicine. Just because you work in telecommunications doesn't mean you know everything that there is to ever know about telecommunications. It would be erroneous to think that. Like, how can you sit there and claim that's a God syndrome? That's a European syndrome to just think you know all just because you're in a profession. And then on the subject, most people that talk against vaccinations and everything, they're not in the medical field. You have some that try to act like they know medical terminology, but they're not in the medical field. At the end of the day, we have to, yes, trust in science, which ultimately means, yes, a few scientists, human beings, we're going to have to put trust in those that apply the TEPS of the correct method. Go ahead, Shawn. I don't want to get.
All right. Thank you. So, real quick, I'm gonna summarize it, but I also put the doc in the chat. All right. What's in Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine? All right. So I got the fact sheet up. It's right there. Now, this is the full list of ingredients according to the FDA. mRNA, lipids, all right, including 4-hydroxybutyl xanidine, bis hexane 6.1. What is that? Dial bisc 2 hydroconate, polyethylene glycerol. See, this is why you're gonna have to look every last one of these up. Ditroclycamide, disotrol, and glycerol, and phosphochlorine and cholesterol. Potassium chloride, monobasic potassium phosphate, sodium chloride, diabasic sodium phosphate dehydrate, and sucrose. All right. So Those are these are the actual ingredients. All right. Now, the mRNA we already covered. We've covered it. We've covered it. We've covered it. But let's go to FDA and be more specific. Okay. This is the fact sheet. Recipients and givers. This is the EAU of the Pfizer biotech vaccine to prevent coronavirus disease in individuals 16 and older. You've been offered the vaccine to prevent coronavirus 2019 or COVID-19 caused by the SARS-CoV-2. This fact sheet contains information to help you understand the risk and benefits of the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, which you may receive because there's currently a pandemic of COVID-19. All right. Now, read this fact sheet for information about Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. Talk to the vaccine provider if you have questions. It is your choice to receive the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. All right. It tells you 2-dose series, 3 weeks into the muscle. Vaccine may not protect everyone. They're telling you this in the fact sheet. Now, why are they saying the vaccine may not protect anyone? I want to kill that because I said it. It's because in a small, minute people, 2 in their test, I believe it was 2 or 3 in their test, it did not create any type of immune response. So they're doing further science regarding those individuals to figure out why it didn't create an immune response in the phase 3 trial for those individuals. Y'all didn't know that, huh? But if you've been, tuned into it, we talked about that when we dealt with Pfizer on one of the previous episodes. All right. See, it's telling us what you need to know before you get the vaccine. Okay. So we're dealing with the specifics and we need to get into it. Now, I gave you a summarized version of it, but I also put in the link, the fact sheet. And then I also give you the risk. What are the risks, Shawn? All right. Now, I done looked up those big words. They don't seem harmful to me. I don't see a problem with the vaccine, but what are the risks? Why do I need to take the vaccine, Shawn? First of all, you choosing between contracting COVID-19 or preventing yourself from contracting COVID-19, which can cause some short to long-term effects. And right now we're saying long-term effects because 8 months ago, when some people contracted COVID-19, they're starting to have some reactions in their body, like fatigue and other things. My friend, he had COVID-19 and he's still talking about he needs some oxygen. It's crazy. So here's the side effects that are being reported. Injection at the site of pain, tiredness, headache, muscle pain, chills, joint pain, fever, all the things that you would get if you ever had a flu shot before or if you had any other vaccine before. These are all the same symptoms. Injection site swelling, injection site redness, nausea, feeling unwell, swollen lymph nodes. All right. Now, it says there's a remote chance that the Pfizer COVID-19 could cause a severe allergic reaction. Now, they're studying the allergic reactions. They have been studying the allergic reactions. So when you hear about the Alaska nurses, 2 Alaska nurses experiencing allergic reactions, what they're not telling you, what people are not telling you if you don't read the article is that they were hospitalized for a day and then released. Other people who have experienced reactions are hospitalized and released. There was one person that was held over for a couple of days because they wanted to monitor her because she really never had any allergic reactions before. This was like the first time, so they wanted to see and make sure. So they did that and they gave it validity and moved on. She's back at work doing her thing. All right, but here's what it says. Difficult breathing, swelling on your face and throat, a fast heartbeat, a bad rash all over your body, dizziness and weakness. So what they're telling people, these may not be all the possible side effects, but what they're telling people who may have have allergies, real bad allergies, they don't want to vaccinate you. They don't want to vaccinate you at all right now because you got very bad allergies and they don't want to cause an allergic reaction to you, right? Not saying that you're going to tweak out and transition, but they are reserving that because they're still doing studies on the available data that they have regarding the people who have had an allergic reaction. They're trying to hone in on what specifically is driving, certain side effects. All right. Now, any more report, if you got issues with something or reporting issues, there's the link to the website where you can register your reporting. So if you were a part of the trial or you had the Pfizer vaccine, there's a number to fax, there's a telephone number and a website for you to go in there and fill out the report regarding that. Also, you can go to the report event website, which is here, Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. So you also can do that. Now, nurses and doctors are usually entering this information into that, but they're giving the people, this is weird, they are giving you the ability to go report anything. If you're monitoring yourself over a period of time, you are to do this. Everybody that was a part of the trials, they are doing this. They are also keeping journals. All right. So this fact checker does all of those things that's required of you to do so. Now, to access the most recent fact sheets, please scan the QR code. Man, they're giving you the ability to pull your phone out, click the little thing, and get what you need out of it. They're trying to be too damn transparent. I mean, I understand why. But look, this site is intended for healthcare professionals. I am not a healthcare professional. I'm in the United States. I go in and, I can access the updated fact sheet, which we have. We have the latest updated fact sheet. So we ain't got to do too much. We got everything there. As more information becomes prevalent, this 1 to 6 page article could grow because they can hone in on some other specifics that they want to let people know about. All right. Now, this deals with the COVID vaccine too, and the candidates and all of that stuff. Regarding all of that, we have it there. And they tell you what went on in their phase trials and all of that. I have all of this in the description. All right. Now, here's the other article that I did have up regarding the actual ingredients again. All right. So this is extra help for you. Here's your ingredients again. I didn't even have to go to the other thing, but I did it anyway. But this link is also in the chat. Here it is. Now, if you don't understand what mRNA is, it's going to tell you what are the Moderna COVID vaccine ingredients. All right, the mRNA goes through there. What do the ingredients in COVID vaccines do? And then it explains the mRNA is a powerhouse of both vaccines, but the lipids, which are fats, also play an important role. It goes through all of that. It tells you everything that you need to know. So I don't want to bore you to death. I want to keep you within context, and then I want to come home with the work that we got to do on the other end. So again, all the links are in the description, except for the last one I put in the chat. Now we'll make sure that you have that in the chat, and it'll further explain the mRNA. If you need any help, the link's in the description. I'm going to pause for a second, scan over to your chat. Yeah, they ain't never did this for no other vaccination. No other vaccination has ever seen this much attention or been administered. They have all of this on the FDA website, and then they'll just tell you to go on the FDA website for any additional information. However, they are setting up a place for you to be able to grow and do things that you need to do within that. Now, the second part of this this bill, we're really going to get into the specifics. And there's some things that were said in that last video that I showed about the mRNA, and I want to kind of build on that. So let me get my time steps up, and we can deal with this. FDA authorizes EAU. We're not worried about that because we got that. COVID-19 is not harmless for young adults. I don't want to get into that. Excess mortality. Yep. Approved by FAA. Reverse transcription. Yeah. So here we go. Let's I'm gonna play the video. I was gonna do the how I do. I normally do the audio, but You know, we have the right to actually share this because it's COVID-19 and they're not tweaking on the COVID-19 stuff on YouTube. And, you know what I'm saying? So we're learning. We're learning from the learned.
What I would care about is,
all right, hold on.
especially,
I was at a specific point that I was going to play. So remember that 49 mark. I'm going to come back here. Let me see if we can get into this. But we ain't going to go too far into this. We're going to probably go, you know, less than an hour's time, but I'm going to try to chop stuff up on the under and kind of build from there. So let's get into it.
and from Western Massachusetts, Alan Dove.
good to be here. It is currently 27 Fahrenheit, but I would agree that virtual means almost or you know, something different.
I guess the word meeting means you actually get together, right? Uncoded COVID-19, for example, if the death is not mortality in COVID-19, Mass General Hospital, where she's chief of infectious diseases. And this op-ed is called, people thought COVID-19 was relatively harmless for younger adults. They were wrong. And so this is an op-ed, but it's actually based on a research paper, which I prefer to refer to. And the research paper is in the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, as we fondly call it. And the authors of the op-ed are also on the paper in addition with others. And the paper is called All-Cause Excess Mortality and COVID-19 Related Mortality Among U.S. Adults 25 to 44 Years Old, March through July of 2020. All right, so what is excess mortality? It's more than known causes, right? More than you normally would expect. Yeah, so if you have a bad influenza year, you have excess pneumonia mortality caused by influenza. So they say excess mortality reflects the full burden of the pandemic that may go uncaptured due to uncoded COVID-19, for example, if the death is not coded as caused by COVID-19 or other pandemic-related deaths. And so they said, let's see what we can capture here. And they focused it on adults 25 to 44 years of age. And in this group, of course, unintentional drug overdoses are usually the leading cause of death. And that
to me was one of the most shocking parts of this paper.
Yeah, it is shocking. And the results, basically, it's a statistical procedure. They go through the data, the deaths. But the results are from March to July, a total of 76,088 all-cause deaths occurred in adults in the U.S. from 25 to 44 years of old, which is about 12,000 more than you would expect, which the expected number would be 64,000. So 12,000 excess deaths. And, among this age group, there were 4,500 COVID-19 deaths recorded. So that's 38% of the excess mortality. And so the idea is that is due to COVID-19. And they can go into that further and say, yeah, this is probably what it was. But, the point is that, well, as we're learning, it's a lot of people. Yeah. And as we're learning, anyone who says this group doesn't get infected, that group doesn't get sick, they're just wrong. And they're saying that for other reasons. And we're going to hear about this later from Rich, I think. But the data show that if you're between 25 and 44, you can die of COVID-19. Okay? So.
And that's only the deaths, as we frequently point out.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Yeah, there are an awful lot of people, who got sick with this and still aren't quite well, and that's not cool either.
Yeah, you get the long-term COVID as well, right?
Yeah.
You can have a mild infection and still get long-term COVID. Get all sorts of outcomes. So,
but even if it's not mild or long-term, you can have a relatively short-term illness that puts you in the hospital. You don't die. Yeah. Okay, you're really sick.
And 4,500 people, that's more than we've lost on 9/11. Just a little perspective there. That's just the deaths is a huge number of people, and that's not nothing.
Well, that's a confirmed COVID deaths.
Those are the confirmed COVID deaths. That's why I pointed to that number, is because some people who are denialists would say, oh, well, you don't know that they died of. No, these are the confirmed COVID-19 deaths. And then the other, that's 38% of the excess. And then the argument in the article is basically that what's the rest of the excess? Because you don't expect that many people to die. And a significant proportion of those are certainly going to be people who just didn't get a confirmed diagnosis of COVID-19 before they died.
In fact, the op-ed puts it a little more clearly. Young adults are dying at historic rates. In July appears to have been the deadliest month in this age group in American history, modern American history. Over the past 20 years, 11,000 young adults die each July. This year, over 16,000. And so I don't think you can argue to us that that's not COVID related. All right. What else is going on?
No, nor can you say that, oh, it must be harmless in this age group. If this is the deadliest deadliest month in modern history for this age group, this is really, having an effect.
And this is not political, folks. This is not political. This is the truth.
No,
this is science.
These are the data. This is what we see.
And
so the difficulty is giving that age group a reality check. These numbers mean nothing to those people. There's got to be another way to convince them that they're not supposed to meet in group and wear a mask. And what do you drink?
Well, when you say those people, let's be careful here.
The one member of that age group who is here does find it very meaningful.
But you already did, Brianne, right? You already.
I did.
You're highly informed.
I only see one other, group of people. And I am taking lots of precautions. So yes, I did already find this.
Even explain it to your class. Have you gotten any pushback from anybody in your class?
I wasn't teaching as much this fall. I was on sabbatical. I had some pushback in the spring from a few students. And I have certainly had some emails from students and some questions that have been a little critical of things. So.
The age group that I see mostly not wearing masks and so forth around here is that age group, right? Right. And I think they don't think that they're vulnerable, and that's not correct. And this is not over, folks. We're going up again, as you heard Daniel last night. It's going up again. It's the Thanksgiving surge, and it's going to go on for a while because the vaccine's not going to make an impact for many months.
And just before we lapse into like kids these days type of discussion, I just want to point out that speaking for myself, and I suspect speaking for other folks who are beyond that age group on this podcast, I don't know, when I was in my 20s, you probably couldn't have told me to be careful. It's notorious that there's a perception of vulnerability when you're a young adult and you feel healthy and invulnerability. You think that you're bulletproof. So that's natural.
But you're not.
But you're not. And in this case, that was unfortunately exacerbated by messages that came from normally credible sources saying, oh, young people aren't affected. And so I think that's going to be very hard to undo.
So a number of credible people said that, and it's either they didn't look at the data or they had an agenda, some other agenda for saying that. Okay. I think this in either case, it's unacceptable. All right. Look at the data or else keep your mouth shut. And if you have and you want to have an agenda, keep your mouth shut also, because the only thing that matters is people's health in a pandemic. All right. And nothing else.
Keep your mouth covered.
Yes. Keep your mouth covered.
Indeed. I understand the preachy business, Alan, but you have to get this message.
Yeah, yes.
And I don't think we can. We don't have a lot of people in that age group listening. And either way, our audience is rather small. I don't know how to do it. And, the New York Times op-ed is not the way to do it. I'm sorry. That's a really limited
It's part of a solution. I mean, that is a loud mouthpiece. It's a much bigger audience than us, and there are certainly and when we say our audience is a particular demographic, I mean our audience is actually extremely diverse. It may not be huge, but I've been amazed when we get letters from people and wow, they're listening. So I think we do have a lot of age groups, and we have a lot of people who have influence on a lot of age groups, and so this does matter. And I think we've been saying from the beginning of the pandemic that everybody needs to avoid catching this virus.
Yeah,
and I think go ahead, Brianne.
For me, one thing that's really important here is that people who are in this age group need to be talking with their friends and other people they know who are in this group and impressing upon them the seriousness. And it's possible that this New York Times piece that does also link to the JAMA piece will be something people can actually share as a tangible piece of evidence of a reason why people should be taking their precautions.
Yeah, and talk to your friends on Zoom, not in person.
And now this Dr. Walensky hopefully will be confirmed as CDC director, and she will be proactive in sending out a message, which the previous director was not. And we're now learning that's because of pressure from the administration, right? So presumably that will not happen in the next administration.
I heard no, it's not going to happen because he's already announced that there'll be a universal nationwide mask up for at least 100 consecutive days.
Yeah, okay.
That is, he said that last night on CNN. And I presume that the people that believe in what he says will do it. And then there's the other group that will just do it out of defiance. They won't do it. So that's the landing point. So when does it become an enforceable regulation rather than a strong suggestion? And that's what we're having trouble with, because you can't put people in jail for not wearing masks. Oh yes, you can. Other countries did that. Somebody got 7 months in jail just recently in some other country for not masking up.
You can in Massachusetts, you could be fined if the cops see you walking around. It's now anywhere you go in public. It doesn't even matter if you're 20, 30 people.
It's not going to work.
If you're out walking on the sidewalk, they could give you a ticket.
But in other states, Alan, that's not going to be
in other states. That's not the case.
Yeah,
and it would be difficult to push down a federal mandate of that.
Yeah, it's not happening. Not in this country. If this went to the Supreme Court, they would say you can't make people wear masks. I'm convinced of it. So
they're not
given the current composition of the court.
Yeah. Yes. So
any composition, I think that's not a fair thing to say. But I'm a big sports fan, so I've been watching a lot of preseason NBA basketball and some college basketball and some college football. Of course, nobody's in the stands. I mean, a smattering of people compared to what could be there. So at least at some level, they're getting the message. Look, you're not allowed to have a lot of people. And here's the proof. And then you've got cancellation of games. You've got teams that didn't make the playoffs because they didn't play enough games, because they were COVID riddled with people that didn't listen. So why hasn't that spread into the other young people of the same age that's, the fan base?
I don't know.
Well, and let's just in terms of the caseload among young people, let's also bear in mind that is also the core of the working age population. So you're imagining, a lot of this discussion, people are probably saying, oh, those, 25-year-olds out partying. Well, how about the 30-year-old who's working the cashier counter in order to pay rent, and has to do that and shows up to work and gets sick as a result. So a lot of that exposure in that group, I suspect, is occupational or other, what we would consider legitimate activities, and they just didn't realize that they were at high risk.
Alan, you have your finger on the pulse of the news. Has this particular message? Has this particular message? And we're saying that New York Times is not necessarily the place to get this word out, but has this particular article or message echoed elsewhere that might be?
Yeah, so it's funny. Since the beginning of the pandemic, there have been stories that are often quite powerful stories where, tonight at 11, we'll hear from a healthy 22-year-old athlete who got COVID-19 and ended up on a ventilator, And these stories have been coming out, and I think there is probably a general awareness among a lot of people as a result, because anecdote really sticks with you. Right. We think in data, but what really gets the message across is, oh, gosh, I saw that guy on the news who, he went from being a track star to being barely able to move. That's powerful. And people have been seeing that repeatedly for months because these cases do come up periodically. So I think that actually has more of an impact than this op-ed, but the op-ed brings it together and says, you know, yeah, that's not just a few stories. That's thousands of people in the supposedly unaffected age group who are dead now. You know, this is a disease that affects everybody.
Yeah, don't you think though that the youth of America, they're more social media oriented than they are, you know, the commercial press and news media.
That stuff spreads really well on social media too.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, well, who are the role models that these people would listen to at their age group level that could spread it via that means? And that's what I would say, you know?
I think it's you, Dixon.
It's you, Dixon. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I do not know. I do not know for the 25 to 44 age group. I have some inkling of it for the high school age group, just because I have a high schooler in my house, and you know there are these YouTube and Twitch stars who come up a lot. But
hey, I was on Twitch this week.
Cool,
really?
What camera you playing?
I did no. They asked. Did a live stream about COVID vaccines, and they put us on the front page, and we got 38,000 viewers at one point.
Nice.
Cool. Nice.
It's the third time I've done it. I've was contacted by a couple of people early this year, and they said, you know, we have a lot of people who are gamers, but they should know this stuff. So
great.
I think that's good to go to different places.
That's excellent.
So I was there for 2.5 hours.
Now you need to get on there and play Among Us.
I'm not a gamer, man. You know, I can. The last time I played a game was about, I don't know, 15 years ago. I bought this game called Portal, which is a really cool concept.
I keep meaning to play that. I still haven't gotten around to it.
So you have this gun, and you shoot it, and it makes a hole where you can jump into it and come out somewhere else, right? Very clever. And anyway, I'm on my laptop playing it for 10 minutes, and my son comes along. He grabs the mouse. He says, "Get out of here. You don't know what you're doing." And he finished the game in a half hour, you know. That was the last time I tried gaming.
My favorite game was Myst.
Myst was very good in the old days, yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, Myst was very good. So Dixon and Rich and myself, who are our spokespersons that we look up to? You know, we're just talking about that for this age group. Who do we look up to? Tony Fauci, I guess, right?
Yeah, but you know, if Willie Nelson, if anybody like a popular performer, you know, like George Clooney, for instance, or anybody who makes it big in entertainment, a singer, a musician, an athlete, a retired athlete, not definitely not a playing athlete, but some people that have a cachet with regards to the deniers or the people who sit on the fence. And
yeah, maybe. I think you're right, but for me, none of those people matter. I don't care what they say or think.
You know,
so say who matters to you.
I told you, I listen to someone like Fauci.
He's already saying this. I mean, Fauci is all over the place, right?
Frankly, I mean, I appreciate that actors and whatever else, they do things that a lot of people see. I do not turn to them for wisdom and inspiration. Okay, it's not the way it works for me.
I'm with Vincent on this. I don't turn to actors and, you know, all of those people. You know what I mean? I'm looking to the scientists, the professionals in the field. But yet our youth are looking to actors and performers for information to seemingly suggest if something is true or not. And that's disingenuous. Because neither nor actor or entertainer of any caliber can properly educate people on a said subject. I mean, it would be great if they could because of their influence on society. However, this is an ongoing issue that we continue to struggle with. So it's like we too have to bridge a gap. Like, look, they're trying to reach, look at this panel. Ain't none of us on this panel with these people. No matter how much we respect their minds, and these are all experts in the field of virology. You know, they don't have to do a podcast. They can stay stuck in the realm of being in labs and writing articles and reviewing data and being a part of the consensus with certain stuff evolves, you know, they can be a part of all of that. You know what I mean? But they're doing this because they're trying to resolve an issue as well. We're in the middle of a pandemic. So this thing's unconventional. And, you know, we struggle with that too. So I felt like the first 22 minutes of this conversation was very, you know, very much important for us to be a part of. Let me continue.
I think the amount of attention we place on actors and sports people and celebrities is just perverted in the world. Okay. And that's my opinion, and I am entitled to it. So I do not look at them for inspiration, but I would look at someone like Tony Fauci or some other prominent scientist, or in any field, literature, fine, but not a celebrity. I just do not get this. Or a sports player who gets paid so much money, and teachers are struggling and they get paid nothing. It's perverted to me. Okay.
Well,
so
I think Dixon mentioned Willie Nelson, who I think actually would have credibility on keeping one's lungs healthy, right?
I see a sailboat outside the window sometime, you know?
Yeah.
What could help, I think, as much or more than anything else, is a uniform message from politicians.
Sure.
Yes. If you had the federal government, including the House of Representatives and the Senate and the governors and everybody projecting a unified message, if everybody were in the same boat, projected a unified message and said, we care about you, this is our job, okay? And in order to keep you healthy, we're going to ask you to understand what the issues are and take these measures. If there were a uniform message, I think that would make a huge difference.
It would.
Yes.
Yeah,
it would.
I agree completely. I think that there are a lot of people who are able to sort of blow things off or not hear things they don't want to hear, and write it off to, well, they all disagree about it, and you know, nobody knows what the right answer is, so I'm going to do what I want. And if there was sort of this nice unified message, that would combat those attitudes quite a bit.
I do think, however, despite my objections, if people listen to celebrities and the celebrities say the right things, that's fine.
Sure.
It just doesn't work for me. Okay.
Sure.
So if some celebrities come out pro-vaccine, I think that's great because people seem to respect them. Okay, fine. But and I agree with the politicians should be making the statements. In this past year, they have not. It's been an utter failure of leadership on all sides. And it's pathetic that people have to die because politicians are having political games. It's unbelievable.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you.
And you know what? If you don't like us being political, we're not. We're complaining that the science in public health was not applied properly. Okay? And if you're saying I'm being political, it's just you think you don't like my politics, and you don't even know what my politics are. You have no idea. People are always writing and saying,
"Come on, Grumpy! I want to hear Grumpy some more here."
Wait till we get to the paper.
Yeah, you're liberal. I just want people to be educated and healthy. Okay, that is the job of a government, and this one ain't doing it, folks. I'm a little worked up today.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why.
No, yeah, here it is, Vincent. You are disarmingly cantankerous.
Right. Yes.
Wow.
So that's a good thing, right?
Disarmingly
Yeah. No, because we didn't know what in 1918 they didn't know what viruses were.
I'm thinking about Pasteur now. Come on.
They
Pasteur.
just barely knew what viruses were.
So they barely knew, and they barely had vaccines, and there's no way they could have whipped off a vaccine in a year, right?
No.
Not happening. Such a stark contrast. Okay.
All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move a little forward into the bill. Even though there's some intricate pieces in this, I put it in here for a reason for people to go back and kind of grab from it. I want to catch to where it leads into a conversation that was intricate leading into, you know, what was going on in the mRNA vaccine, where they talked about problems with the vaccine and destroying cells and all of that stuff. That's the science I want to get into today. And I want to pull that out of here, and then we'll see if they got some questions and the answers at the end, and then we'll wrap up. So let me see here, because I don't want to keep people out too long.
Just to be clear, what can happen here is that the enzyme that is reverse transcribing
reference a single one of those papers here. They are completely unaware of that literature, and that's inexcusable. With human sequence on both sides, that's what you would need to prove, and they haven't done that here.
People who have access to it don't. Then physics, none of these preprints are going to get picked up and hyped by media outlets and cause people to go browbeat their doctor to prescribe them more quarks, right? You know, it's not, I'm not saying physics is unimportant, but what's being covered in it is not going to change anyone's day-to-day behavior. In biomedical research, and especially in epidemiology, there's this issue that people could get, since these are public servers, people can get this paper, looks like a paper, and say, oh, well, this shows this. Well, if you understand what's going on in this paper, but most of the people who have access to it don't, then you see that doesn't really prove that. And part of the peer review process for a traditional journal is that you have to provide enough data to support your conclusions. That barrier is not there in preprint servers. And that's what we're seeing. And now that we've got a pandemic going on, people are dumping stuff like this into the preprint servers, and then it gets picked up by news outlets. And now we on TWIV have to go through and explain, no, this is.
So they have these chimeric sequences, okay?
Yeah.
And the problem is they have a piece of human sequence next to SARS-CoV-2. And that's not good enough because it's an artifact. Let me read a few more comments from Twitter. Show me genomic DNA sequence spanning the integration junction. Okay, so if you're saying it's integrated, show me the integrated DNA. Either do a southern blot. Hey, folks, you remember those? They still work. People still do them, showing integrated SARS-CoV-2 with human sequence on both sides. That's what you would need to prove, and they haven't done that here. They haven't even looked at cells from patients. They just looked at this database, which is full of artifacts. And this other comment.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but nobody picked up a pipette in this paper, right?
Yeah, they did do some experiments, which we'll get to, but they are just.
Oh, that's right. Yes, right.
Just irrelevant, basically. We'll get into that. So, again, continuing from Halvor's, you found RNA-seq reads that look like chimeras between cellular genes and viral genes. Congrats! I can show you mouse-human chimeric reads. I can show you bacteria-human chimeric reads. I can show you things you wouldn't believe. If you dig through the trash heap of unaligned reads in any high-throughput sequencing data set, you will see things that make you believe in demons. Everybody involved in any sort of high-throughput sequencing project should be required to spend some time listening to an embittered bioinformatics guy rant about sequencing artifacts. That's just great. I just love it.
I love all of this, and that does make me really happy to think about, the mouse-human bacteria hybrid.
If you went through these databases, you could find hybrids with almost any virus that was originally in the original sample. You could find influenza and others. And by the way, we on TWIV have talked about endogenous sequences of RNA viruses integrated in mammalian genomes, bits of RNA virus genomes in the germline. Okay, that can happen. They don't reference a single one of those papers here. They are completely unaware of that literature, and that's inexcusable. If you're going to publish something like this, you need to go in the literature and say, oh, it's been shown to happen in the germline. But of course, in the germline, they got both ends and they show that it's a bona fide integration. And I can't believe they didn't reference that work at all. I mean, what are you thinking, folks?
No, I thought the reason why they put it up here is to elicit reviews so that they can correct whatever they think is correctable.
The problem is that by the time you look through what they've got here, there's nothing to make a paper out of. So the idea of a preprint server is that you do solicit reviews for something that you're going to move toward being a paper. But there's this artifact issue, and I realize the reason I forgot about the wet lab experiments is because they're so they're kind of bonkers, right?
They are bonkers. They are bonkers. So let me tell you the wet lab experiment. So
Wait, can I say one thing?
Yes,
Yep,
of course.
Sorry. And this is more of a, for our listeners who are not specialists at all, just to be clear, what can happen here is that the enzyme that is reverse transcribing, taking RNA, making RNA into, or making a DNA copy of the RNA, can fall off the original RNA template. That happens at some rate. And that
Listen to this next 10 minutes. It is crucial. I'm gonna rewind her back. She about to go in, and y'all need to know.
Bits of RNA virus genomes in the germline. Okay, that can happen. They don't reference a single one of those papers here. They are completely unaware of that literature, and that's inexcusable. If you're going to publish something like this, you need to go in the literature and say, oh, it's been shown to happen in the germline. But of course, in the germline, they got both ends and they show that it's a bona fide integration. And I can't believe they didn't reference that work at all. I mean, what are you thinking, folks?
No, I thought the reason why they put it up here is to elicit reviews so that they can correct whatever they think is correct.
The problem is that by the time you look through what they've got here, there's nothing to make a paper out of. So the idea of a preprint server is that you do solicit reviews for something that you're going to move toward being a paper. But there's this artifact issue, and I realize the reason I forgot about the wet lab experiments is because they're so they're kind of bonkers, right?
They are bonkers. They are bonkers. So let me tell you the wet lab experiment. So
can I say one thing?
Yes, of course.
Sorry. And this is more of a, for our listeners who are not specialists at all, just to be clear, what can happen here is that the enzyme that is reverse transcribing, taking RNA, making RNA into, or making a DNA copy of the RNA, can fall off the original RNA template. That happens at some rate. And then it will re-anneal, it will go back on, but it might pick the wrong RNA template to bind back onto.
And that's how you get right? There's just RNA. There's no wrong or right.
Right, exactly. But it will bind to a different one, and that will result in this chimeric product. And so this is all just about the enzyme coming on and off of an RNA template.
So if you did this analysis and you thought, there's some evidence, even though it's flawed, do the right experiment to prove it. And the experiment they do is completely bonkers, as Alan said. They take
and if you don't know what the right experiment is, you should go to the literature and find colleagues who do, and talk to them. Hey, we found this thing and it looks kind of weird. What do you think? And that's where your bioinformatician would say, oh, yeah, that can happen. Here's how. Here's what you'd need to do to show if it's real. And then you go and do that experiment.
There must be tons of people at the Whitehead that could answer that question.
Oh my gosh, the place is lousy with bioinformaticians.
They've got them all and ask somebody. Ask the janitor.
It's hard to figure out. So what they did, they took cells in culture, HEC293 cells. I could care about HEC293 cells in SARS-CoV-2.
You could give a heck.
And they overproduced a cellular reverse transcriptase. It's encoded in an element called line 1. We all have these RTs in our genome. So they take the gene which has been cloned, they overproduce it in this cell, and then they infect, and lo and behold, the SARS-CoV-2 RNA is reverse transcribed to DNA. I mean, how does that prove in any way that what they're thinking is actually occurring? Yeah, if you put RT in a cell and you throw RNA in, the RT is going to copy the RNA into DNA. It actually gets integrated as well, but none of this is surprising. It's totally artificial and bears nothing on their idea that this is happening in a bona fide infection. I mean, it's embarrassing.
So the RT is reverse transcriptase.
Yeah, and the RT is in the cytoplasm of the cell, which is where the viral RNA is. So why are we surprised that this is happening at all? I fail to understand why they did this experiment instead of taking someone with COVID-19, taking a little nasal swab, extracting the human DNA, not RNA, and doing a Southern blot and seeing if there are SARS-CoV-2 sequences integrated into the genome. It's so friggin' easy to do that experiment. Why didn't you do it, folks? Instead of overproducing enzyme in a cell and showing that it gets in. That is just a crazy experiment. And then even crazier, they say, hey, let's see if cytokines can induce reverse transcription in cell. Maybe that's what's going on when the virus infects the cell. You got cytokines all over and they're, yeah, so they had cytokines to cells. And I don't even know why they picked the cells that they did. You know, they picked myeloid cells, microglia, T cells, and they add cytokines and they show that the line 1 RT goes up. Again, as far away from the original idea as you can get. It does not support it whatsoever.
I have a theory about why they picked these particular cells in experiments, which is they had them sitting around.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's a good reason.
That's right.
That's a good reason.
That's what Amy would say.
That's the simplest explanation. Pull something out of the freezer that can do this.
Pull something. Amy said last time or whenever, she said, you just open the freezer and you decided to use what you had in there. Maybe next time you should think more and close the freezer before you do it.
It's a science frittata.
What's that, Dixon?
A science frittata. That's how we make a frittata at our house.
Yeah.
We go in and pick up everything, throw some eggs in it, and then you got a frittata.
So if I was going to be exceedingly generous, and say that I bought any of what I'm seeing here, the question that I would have for them is, you overexpress reverse transcriptase and you show that SARS-CoV-2 RNAs get into the genome. What about all the other RNAs in the cell? Why is this special to SARS-CoV-2? Sure. And why is it not happening with every other RNA in the cell? And why is, life possible?
Well, in fact, if in their experiment, Brianne, if they had looked, they would have found other RNAs being reverse transcribed and integrated. Absolutely. Because in fact, in our cells, routinely, mRNAs are reverse transcribed by line element RT, and sometimes they integrate somewhere else and they cause issues. We know that happens. It's exceedingly rare.
Right.
But if you massively overexpress that reverse transcriptase, then you can get all kinds of RNA integrated, and that's exactly what they see, but they only looked at the one they were interested in.
Right.
Now, again, the experiment they should have done immediately if they really thought these chimeric transcripts meant anything, and they don't. They're an artifact. Take some DNA from an infected patient and do a Southern blot to look for both ends of the integrated SARS-CoV-2 and flanked by human DNA. And they did not do that. And I can't see this being published without it. I don't know why you would.
No.
And it's too bad we have to spend time on this because there's so much other good stuff out there that it's actually good science. But so many people.
But it's important. I think this does teach one interesting thing, which is you shouldn't go trolling around bioRxiv and looking for results that are going to have meaning. We will occasionally highlight something that looks promising, but when something gets picked up and hyped the way this has, you got to take a very skeptical view of that. And it's an artifact until proven otherwise. And in this case, I don't think they're ever going to prove otherwise.
And by the way, I actually don't care if this integrated into my somatic cells. All somatic cells die within a few days, right? And so people are saying, like Brianne said, the mRNA is going to modify my genome. You know what? If it modifies the genome of a skin cell, I don't really care. Or a respiratory epithelium, because they're all dying. What I would care about is...
Especially ones that have been infected by SARS-CoV-2. They're dying real soon.
They're going to die. And even if it's somehow, the RNA left and got into another cell that's not infected and integrated, I don't care. It's going to die in 3 days. Now, if it went into my germline, I might worry, but I think that's not happening. We don't have evidence for this. So, folks, and Alan, the issue here is that the press doesn't know how to handle this, right?
Yeah.
So they call someone up and they say, "What do you think?" And they haven't read the paper, and they go, "Wow, look at the title. That's pretty cool." Right.
And the scientific community doesn't handle this very well because, in biomedical research, I think a lot of folks still haven't gotten used to the concept of bioRxiv. And so they look at it and they say, oh, wow, this is a paper. It's published. And there is a bias to assume that there's some level of validity to that. Well, they wouldn't have published it if it didn't have something.
Yeah.
Well, no, they haven't published it. It's not published. It's a preprint, and so there's that going on. And yes, the process for a reporter on seeing something about this would be, oh, okay, I'm going to call up some sources who weren't involved in this work and ask them about it. And of course, they haven't heard of it because there are gazillion papers a day on a preprint server. And they take a quick look at it and they say, oh, wow, this is really interesting. So-and-so of such and such said, this is really interesting. And so that, that then becomes the story, and it really shouldn't have been.
So isn't it obligatory to submit your paper for review at the same time that you put it up on the server? No. So this paper may never get in front of a real review session then.
It may not.
It would be best if it didn't. Unfortunately,
I would expect if this paper,
as we speak.
No, if this paper in its current format was submitted to any reputable journal, the research editor would look at it and reject it out of hand. It wouldn't get to peer review. It would just be, okay, guys, just go work
I would
on
hope
this.
so. However, in the COVID pandemic, I think these journals are dying to get anything COVID. And if you review this and you don't reject it outright, you're doing a disservice to the field. This is severely flawed. What do you think, Rich? You got anything to say here?
You guys have said it all, and I agree with what you said.
Okay. Is there anything else? Okay, so, unfortunately, this even got covered in Science. I think there's a lot of pressure that if somebody's covering a lot of this story, you got to cover it too.
Well, and guess what? Now it's been covered in TWIV.
Yeah, but we trashed it.
I mean, yeah. But yeah, the story is being covered, so you have to talk about the story that's being covered.
This reminds me a little bit of that bit with in a hearing, one of the senators holding up an observational study that was flawed about hydroxychloroquine and holding it up to Fauci and saying, but it was peer reviewed. And Fauci says, I don't care.
Yeah.
And this is a study from reputable researchers from a reputable institution.
All right. I'm going to play a little bit more before we end. But they are talking about an article that is published if you're not paying attention. The article was published, didn't really have the scientific data. These are scientists, so they know to analyze this stuff, and they know the studies was not done in order to come up with a proper conclusion. So the article and reference I actually can post, but they don't show the evidence to support. And this is why you see this whole panel tearing it down. And then you had the hydroxychloroquine come up. And you heard what Rich says about it being mentioned to Fauci, and Fauci says he don't care if it's been peer reviewed. Just because it's been peer reviewed doesn't mean that it's facts. Just because it's been peer reviewed by some people does not mean that that is substantial evidence. So
isn't that a logical fallacy, Shawn? Not to cut you, like when you say that something is true because a bunch of other people said it. What do we call that?
Yeah, it's a logical fallacy.
But I mean specifically, which, like, for the people that's listening, like, that we actually talk about this logical fallacy all the time when it comes to research. And just because you find an article that agree with your argument, what do we call that?
Appeal to authority.
Right.
And you haven't even verified if the authority is just in their conclusion.
And also confirmation bias really is what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just because it say, I could pull up something right now that say that LeBron James is not, one of the greatest basketball players to ever do it. There's plenty of articles that say that, but do that mean that that's true?
Yeah, it's an argument that's still being discussed, and people aren't going to side with LeBron James on that because of what he did in the championship game. It depends on how you label better player. Are you saying overall? Are you saying all around? Are you saying scores? Are you saying champion ever? Nah, it's a whole lot to go into that. But the point here is is that we have people in our community who say this a lot. And for instance, if a SARS presenting information or something, you will hear this chatter coming from a specific person that says, peer review, my work's peer review. Just because your work's peer review doesn't mean it is adequate and it stands the tested scientific method. If it could be refuted, you know what I'm saying? This is what science does. They test things. If the test fails, they throw it out. If you got people, if you got confirmation bias, people that's just, you know what I mean? They just doing that to say that you did it and then putting it out like that, then that's an issue. Who cares? So all of this, has it been peer reviewed? Has your work been peer reviewed? Man, read the work, review the sources. And if you have sources that refute any of the information that is presented, then provide that. Then you let the data speak. You don't form an opinion based on someone else's interpretation of data that you've never cross-referenced. You let the information speak. And this is what they're doing here. They took an article published in a journal and just basically said this is incomplete. How did they know that it was incomplete? Because they are in the field. They immediately saw the issues in it. Each one of them had their own opinions. Dickerson basically said that maybe they would just want reviews. All in all, these scientists have already came up to a conclusion on this particular article as if it's to say, yo, this is trash. They didn't do any work. They didn't do the real work. They did some things, but they didn't do all the tests that they could have done to present a reasonable argument. So how could you come to a conclusion on that? Moving on.
Okay, trust science, not the scientists.
He say it all the time, yo. He say it all the time, yo. He say it all the time.
Here.
Yeah, these are.
I don't care.
I don't care.
Yeah. And this is a study from reputable researchers from a reputable institution. Okay, trust science, not the scientists.
Here.
Yeah, these are people who I believe have done. These are people who I believe have done good work, but this is not it.
So yeah, even reputable people can make missteps because people always say, "Wow, this was said by a reputable person," and so I don't care if they're reputable. That's a good start, but if you examine it closely, it's not reputable, and often the public does not know how to distinguish between opinion and data. And for example, someone this week said, well, this idea that more virus makes you sicker, right? The whole dose severity thing we've been dealing with. It was in this paper in the New England Journal, and he sent it to me. He said, here are the data. And it's an opinion piece. There are no data. And I don't know, people probably don't know the difference. Sometimes you can express your opinion.
That's we're used to it. We've been doing this for a long time.
That's why we're on the air, just to show you what the difference is.
Okay, enough of this.
That's our job.
Enough of this.
Yes. Also, please don't scroll down and read the comments.
Oh no, don't read comments on anything like this.
Yes.
No, never. You should just listen to Twiv. By the way,
we might point out that this has been picked up by people who have agendas to be anti-vaccine or COVID-19 is a hoax. The tests are all false positive. I mean, all of this has been making hay out of this preprint, and that's.
As a matter of fact, the authors ought to take this down.
Yes, they really should
take it down. Yes, authors, please take this manuscript down.
Please.
It's an affront.
Sounds like Ronald Reagan talking.
Yes, tear down this manuscript.
Tear down this manuscript.
Yes. Or to Gorbachev, I think.
Good,
tear down
maybe
this
a good title. Tear down this.
Yeah, there we go. Tear down this manuscript.
Another issue that I've encountered this week is encompassed in this.
All right, so this is what they're referring to. this article right here. SARS-CoV-2 RNA reverse transcribed and integrated into human genome. It's no data, no real data here. And this is a replicable place. You know, this is what they're saying. This is what they're saying, yo. They're like, okay, so when we get into the actual, see, y'all didn't know that. Y'all saw how I did that? You get the abstract, then you come back and you get the actual results. Now, y'all seen me pull this up before. But they went back into this article and they got to dealing with the data. It looks, you know, it looks like they doing some work in here, but they really didn't. So they want to get this, they, you know, this group of scientists are like, nah, dismiss this. This is exactly why you read the data. So we ain't really got to deal with what they saying on the panel. We can just go right here to the results. To investigate the possibility of viral integration into virus-infected cells, we analyzed published RNA sequence data from SARS-CoV-2 infected cells for evidence of chimeric transcripts, which would be indicative of viral integration into the genome and expression. Examination of these data sets revealed a substantial number of host viral chimeric reads. These occurred in multiple blah, 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 blah. Now look, last sentence. These analysts support the hypothesis that SARS-CoV-2 RNA may retrointegrate into the genome of the affected cells, resulting in the production of chimeric viral cellular transcripts. Now, it even says something about evidence. To provide experimental evidence for reverse transcription integration SARS-CoV-2, we've overexpressed human line 1 of HIV-1 reverse transcript. They dealing with the data, yo. All right. So I stopped it right there because they dealing with that. Then they come back to the informative UK variant that we talked about already on the previous show. We're not going to elaborate on that then. And we're not going to get into the children or the low risk flyers and all of that stuff. So I'm gonna skip ahead and we're gonna get into the portion where we can get some question and answers. I might have a timestamp wrong because they didn't timestamp this like they normally do.
Depending on the resources available, that's maybe.
And this, I don't know where they get their information from, but they say it doesn't appear that kids will be able to get it in time for the fall semester next year, based on the timeline. I don't know why it's so long in their estimation. They don't say why. Maybe they're basing it on the current length of time it took for the, you know, these vaccines. But as Rich said, I think it can be done faster. So that surprises me.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Good question. Really good question.
Let's go back.
A mom in Texas.
You need a boost.
Yeah.
I don't think you need it.
On illness, it's kind
of mean. So even your first infection is
got infected between those two shots, you got excluded.
Study of their vaccine next year on college campuses. And that will be very interesting.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. It does reduce the load, doesn't it?
Yes.
It could reduce the load enough so you don't get effective transmission. That's correct.
Right. And that is in fact the rationale and what we've observed with
the virus is stopped, then no, there's no evidence currently assume that max vaccination, even with viral shedding, can achieve herd immunity. Or can we reasonably assume Avengers assembling weekly to battle missing?
Here you go. Here go the question. So now you get the full gist of what they're saying, even though, you know, some of us already know. Here you go.
Information and protect the world with truth and science. I do have a question for you all, and I'm not certain which TWIV superhero is best fit to answer. That doesn't prevent us from all jumping in simultaneously. My question is about herd immunity. From what I understand, we do not have any evidence that the vaccines protect COVID-19 from spreading to other people. Correct. We only have data on efficacy for the recipient. and efficacy, this is my footnote, is measured in terms of whether or not you get disease, and sometimes on how severe the disease is. Certainly, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, however. Very good. If we find this to be true, that the vaccines only prevent the vaccine recipient from illness, but viral shedding still exists at a level that can cause infection in others, it seems that vaccines might not be the herd immunity answer that we have all, including Dr. Fauci, been touting. Put another way, mass vaccination would not prevent an illness from spreading or getting established in a society, just prevent massive rates of illness, which isn't really herd immunity. So my questions, is touting herd immunity premature? Or can we reasonably assume that mass vaccination, even with viral shedding, can achieve herd immunity? Or can we reasonably assume that viral shedding does not happen based on what we know with other vaccines? Am I misunderstanding how herd immunity works? No. I welcome all of your thoughts on this. I think the question does relate to how we communicate about the vaccine. The, quote, vaccines are not just about protecting yourself, it's also about your community, end quote, really seems to hold water if vaccination prevents infectious shedding. If this question has already been discussed, please let me know which episode and I will make sure to listen. I'm a regular listener, but also recognize that I might miss some important discussions on these topics. Thank you, Danica from Bellingham, Washington, and she's an epidemiology grad student who just finished her finals and is stoked to get caught up on all of her podcasts. So let me have a crack at this, and I'm sure you will all jump in. You're correct. There is no evidence that the vaccine prevents transmission of virus from one person to another, which it could do. It could be that the vaccination would make it so that that transmission would not cause disease because you'd have some level of immunity, so the bulk of infections would be asymptomatic. You know, to me, and this is just me talking, it depends to some extent on how you define herd immunity. If herd immunity really means that the transmission of the virus is stopped, then no, there's no evidence currently that the vaccine is going to stop transmission. And the virus could continue to be transmitted. But can we talk about, this is a question. Can we talk about immunity to disease?
Okay, so as herd immunity is, my understanding of the common definition is that it is it's a collective phenomenon that arises when a certain percentage of the population is immune from transmitting the pathogen. And therefore, the remaining percentage, whatever it is, depending on the pathogen, is protected by herd immunity, meaning the pathogen can't get to them because it can't find enough susceptible hosts. So if 99% of the people are vaccinated against, or whatever, are vaccinated against measles, then the remaining 1% who are not immune from measles will be protected because the measles virus gets nowhere. Right, it just can't find enough susceptible hosts. There's not a high enough concentration of susceptible hosts to spread it to the people who are susceptible. So that is the standard definition.
Does the measles vaccine actually prevent infection?
To an extent.
I asked Sally Permar, right, Brianne, and she said no, it's not sterilizing.
Right. No, but it does reduce transmission, doesn't it?
Yes,
it could reduce the load enough so you don't get effective transmission. That's correct.
Right. And that is in fact the rationale, and what we've observed with measles vaccine is when you have a high percentage of vaccination in a society, you don't see transmission even with occasional introductions. Right. Otherwise, we never would have gotten measles to near eradication.
Now, it's all about transmission. If the vaccine doesn't prevent transmission, then herd immunity is not possible, right? But we know with many vaccines it is possible, right? And so we hope that this one will convey herd immunity through impeding transmission, but we don't know. And yesterday, Daniel said that Moderna is actually planning a transmission study of their vaccine next year on college campuses. And that will be very interesting.
Yes.
Right.
And all of the companies who are doing these are testing for virus infection. But as I think there's a letter coming up later from somebody who's in one of the trials, it's not like everybody gets tested every day to see if they've contracted the virus. It's basically symptomatic surveillance, because that has been the emphasis, is on preventing symptomatic disease, preventing COVID-19, the disease. But they are, when people develop symptoms, they're testing them for SARS-CoV-2. They're repeating the testing. They're checking, when you clear it. And so there are data suggesting, some things about transmission, but there aren't enough data to say one way or another it does or it doesn't prevent transmission. So we don't know.
Right. And so two other points to that. If you look at the Moderna data that was part of the FDA discussion yesterday, the supplemental table 1. So, when you're going through your 90 some odd pages of data, I'm sure you noticed supplemental table 1. Yes. It did look at so basically between shot 1 of the vaccine and shot 2, people were tested for infection, and really they were testing so that if you got infected between those 2 shots, you got excluded. But they happened to have, as a result, they had data on, did the first shot of that regimen protect against infection? Numbers are quite small. And so I wouldn't, I'd take this with a Tonka truck full of salt, as someone said on Immune. But yeah, that's what they called it. But it said that there was a difference of 67%. So there was 67% efficacy in protecting. And in there's a New York Times piece by Apoorva Mandvilli that's called "Why Vaccinated People Still Need to Wear a Mask," and she asked Pfizer and Moderna if they were planning to use the blood serology samples that they had taken to do some anti-N antibody responses to look and see if participants had been infected. And they said, at least to her in that interview, that was planned.
Yeah, we have to see. We don't know. But let me just say that based on what we know about common cold coronaviruses, you have immunity. Every year you get infected anyway, and you transmit it. You don't get sick, but then again, they don't make you sick in general. So even your first infection as a kid, you don't get very sick. But you get reinfection, you get transmission of common cold, seasonal coronaviruses, even in the face of population immunity. So there can be, if the
we
key
know that
is, go ahead.
We know the SARS-CoV-2 can do the same thing. We don't know how often, but it does. We do have reliable reports of reinfections.
Yeah, but they're pretty. The numbers are low, so I don't know.
The numbers
if
are
that's a
low
trend.
because in order to get a reliable report, you've got to sequence the whole darn thing both times, and that just hasn't been done very often. So we don't know how common
So I think
that is.
the key to herd immunity is you can have shedding after vaccination as long as it's not enough to transmit. Transmission is really the key. You have to not just look for because if you do a shedding experiment after vaccination, I would say, what do the data mean? If you shed 10 to the 2 PFU per mil of nasal wash, is that enough to transmit or not? You have to look at transmission, and that's why the studies that are planned are important. I don't know
and
what
that's
to
why
predict.
Something like the measles vaccine, it's not sterilizing immunity, but it's good enough.
It's good enough, yeah.
Until maybe late in life it wanes in some people, but if you get the percentage of the population, but then you look at something like the inactivated polio vaccine, where you can perfectly well act as a carrier after you've gotten IPV.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there have been cases where that virus can spread in the intestines of people who have IPV, and they don't get polio. But then if it gets into a person who's not been vaccinated, they will get polio.
Yeah.
They're not protected because the virus is still transmitting.
And IPV, infected polio vaccine, the people who have been infected with the active vaccine, infected polio vaccine, IPV, If you have IPV and I have not had the shot, they are simply telling you right now that because I never had a polio vaccine, that I could contract polio from you. You're walking around passing this along. All right, so I'm gonna kill it right there, man. You can continue the conversation if you want. That is a great build. It's 2 hours long. I know we spent a little time here. I was trying to cap it. I kind of went over about 25 minutes. I want to end with something that showed up in my notifications, and I want to end with it, and I want to kind of deal with this real quick. So before we wrap up and we do everything we need to do, please support our merch store. Please go purchase one of our many books. We work really, really hard on trying to bring forth this information, educating people, and also historically and even children. In the descriptions of the videos has all the sources to this particular build today, except for one, and I'll add that in a second, which is the Pfizer, the vaccine fact sheet. And, you know, we write books, we do our research, we're reading every day, we're doing everything that's necessarily possible for us to keep y'all abreast of all the information, refuting misinformation, and, you know, just doing what we do best. But this right here is a comment on the my video shared in Black Reality. This brother posts the book, Murder by Injection, the story of medical conspiracy against America. What y'all think is in this book? The Tuskegee experiment, right? You think it's in this book? I think that he's quoting this book when he says this. If my people have learned from the past, none of them should take the vaccine. Just sit and wait, because you can't sue the manufacturer or the government. Maybe some hush money settled outside of the courtroom, but the damage has been done. Good luck with the hush money. That can't be in that book. So why would he post this book and then say that? And then it says here, Eunice Rivers, Laurie, the black woman used against the black men at Tuskegee. What are you implying? What is he implying here? Because she was the nurse that was in a part of getting everybody there so that they can get treated. Now the doctors didn't treat them, but y'all don't even know her story, yet you're using her to say what? So I'm confused here. So now he put this book up about conspiracies against America. So you already know what's in this book. Gonna be some bull crap. And then he doesn't qualify anything or say anything. He just posts a book and then he comes with this bull crap. Like, why are you fear mongering? If my people have learned from the past, none of them should take the vaccine. Why? Okay. So now, if you're telling them not to take the vaccine, what is your viable solution for these people? You sick? Then he says, just sit and wait, because you can't sue the manufacturer of the government. This vaccine is in a EAU. It's not on the list of accepted vaccinations in America. It's on an EAU. This is an emergency administration usage. EAU. It's not going to be on that vaccine list, like Rabon was trying to imply the other day why I wasn't on that. It's an EAU. Next, he says maybe some hush money settled outside the courtroom, but the damage has been done. What damage has been done? They've already did trials. You know, you got 44,000, 38,000 people, thousands of people being vaccinated every day, frontline workers. What damage has been done? We haven't found any damage to be done to anyone related to the vaccine, period. Period. This is clearly the problem with social media. It allows people to do things like this and then try to sneak and get away with it without corroborative evidence. I mean, let me just deal with this right here real quick. But go ahead, T'Challa. You got something you want to say?
No, I'm just sitting back for the ride. I mean, you know, person living with underlying conditions these days, we got to be concerned about when we in the actual pandemic of an actual real virus. Um, and dealing with all of the other quote unquote vaccines that have come before this pandemic. Um, because measles and chickenpox and things we don't hear about, polio, we speak about it all the time. What happened to these things? You know what I'm saying? Stuff just don't go away in nature. If you know anything about nature and energy doesn't just dissipate without a trace. Like just out of nowhere, like it just magically went away. Like something happened. We started doing something to respond. So if not the needle or whatever form of whatever, then what are we gonna do right now? Sure, there is no such thing as this 100% pampering comfort. I don't want to have any adverse effects to anything coming in contact with my body. Put too much salt in your food and you're gonna have problems. So you know what I'm saying? Like we all understand that there's gonna be effects to everything. We just have to be educated and not do things like this with this instant microwave meme culture of posting a picture, saying a few words through text as if that could somehow be more of importance than years of study, trials, and things that it takes to produce a credible paper. Not because you're a quote unquote a part of a reputable institution, but if you're actually going through, like I said, the TEP HESIP, to actually produce an experiment to falsify something or to see if something is going to work, then you log your results and you talk about it. That is the way it's supposed to be done. And I trust that over some Negro on Facebook talking greasy any day.
It's just disingenuous. If not a vaccine, then what? What's your cure? He ain't got one. He's using field mongering. That book he posted was crazy, yo. Like he ain't even quote nothing up out of the book, yo. So anyway, that's gonna put us in position, man, to let us run over. We over 2 minutes. And Kofi's up next, yo. He's up next in about an hour. Go subscribe to Kofi Pie Side TV. Most of you are already subscribed to it. There's a great presentation that will be listed. And get it, you're gonna get into the evidence of all of that. And, hopefully people can learn from that build as well. Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, the books is in. The books are in. Yep. They're in. They're here.